Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Focal Points. Today, we're going to be discussing what has been blazing all over social media, the recent admission of the FDA of 10 child mRNA vaccine deaths about 5 years or 4 years too late. And so, Dr. McCullough, we're going to go through first. First, we're going to go through what CNN is reporting on this, and then we're going to be going through all of the peer-reviewed studies that have already presented deaths after the vaccine since 2021. So, Dr. McCall, what do you think of this?
Nick, this is a stunning development, and we want to go through this carefully at the McCullough Foundation here on Focal Points. So I want to bring up CNN reporting, and this is on all the major news stations, but let me just read from CNN. This is from Kanita Iron and Adam Cankren. The title of this is FDA officials plan to change vaccine approval process, claiming that COVID-19 shots cause child deaths. I mean, this is a stunning revelation. A senior Food and Drug Administration official on Friday said that the agency will change its vaccine approval process, alleging that COVID-19 vaccination resulted in the deaths of 10 children. An internal memo obtained by CNN. So one of the questions, Nick, is, why isn't this a press release? Why is this an internal memo? And was it leaked, or how did CNN obtain it? But I'll read on. An internal memo obtained by CNN, Dr. Vinay Prasad, the FDA's chief medical and scientific officer and the director of the Center for Biologics Evaluations and Research, claimed, quote, healthy young children who faced tremendously low risk of death were coerced at the behest of the Biden administration. So why is Prasad interjecting a political comment here on a drug safety problem on his watch via school and work mandates to receive a vaccine that could result in death? Now, Prasad did not provide any details about the deaths how the FDA came to that conclusion, but pointed to an initial analysis, quote unquote, examined 96 deaths, not stating what data source they came from, and linked 10 to COVID-19 vaccination. He also claimed that COVID-19, quote, was never highly lethal for children, end quote, and that the effects of it, quote, are comparable, end quote, to respiratory viruses, for which there aren't annual vaccines. Prasad goes on to be quoted by saying, I have no doubt that many vaccines have saved millions of lives globally, and many have benefits that far exceed risks. But the vaccines are like any other medicinal product, end quote, Prasad said. The right drug given to the right patient at the right time is great, but the same drug can be inappropriately given, causing harm, end quote. Prasad said, as a result of the FDA analysis, the agency will adopt a new approval process for vaccines that require evidence of their safety and value before they can be marketed. Among the changes would be stricter requirements for authorization of vaccines used for pregnant women and trials for pneumonia vaccines that will need to prove that shots reduce disease instead of showing that vaccine produces enough antibodies to fight the illness. The agency will also revive the annual flu vaccine framework, Prasad said, and will appraise safety and be honest in vaccine labels. Although Prasad's memo didn't provide details about how the process would change, it could require larger studies that take longer to complete, slowing the process significantly. Final paragraph, Nick. In the memo, Prasad said he's open to discussion about changes, but said that debates should be internal to the FDA. Some staff may not agree with these core principles and operating principles, he wrote, before urging those staffers to submit their resignation letters. Nick, I have to tell you, I think this is an absolute bombshell. Dr. Vinay Prasad, who's a hematologist oncologist, he does not have any prior regulatory experience at the FDA, doesn't have any drug development experience or drug safety experience, now is caught in a reporting swirl from the Washington Post to CNN, a leaked internal FDA memo. What are you seeing out there in social media just on the response to this November 29th concession, essentially?
Yeah, I'm seeing two sides to this response. I see one side praising this and, kind of almost warship like of calling them heroes and how they're saving all the children from these shots. And then we see the other side of the response that has been following this for about 4 years and following all the research and understanding that 10 child deaths is literally the microscopic tip of the iceberg.
Mm.
The microscopic tip of the iceberg. And this appears to accurately, this meme here appears to accurately encapsulate this current situation where, they see, oh, look, we found 10 child deaths, but that is almost an attempt at what's called limited disclosure to deflect from the real situation, which has now been estimated up to 17 million deaths worldwide.
Oh
And
my
so,
Lord! You know that the U.S. CDC VAERS system, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, through August of 2025 had 19,480 deaths, Nick. 19,480. And this occurred on the watch of Stephen Hahn, FDA commissioner from the Texas Medical Center, who's now with the venture capital firm for Moderna. Robert Califf, formerly at Duke and a well-respected cardiologist, who held himself out as a drug safety expert and a cardiovascular clinical trials expert, and it was really a professional shame to see this happen to Robert Califf, who will be indelibly tarnished by this. And now new FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, as shown here. Makary, unlike Hahn or Califf, he's not a medical doctor. He doesn't prescribe medications to complicated medical patients. He has no drug development experience. He has no regulatory experience, has no drug safety experience. And Marty Makary, believe it or not, Nick, Marty Makary was tweeting out in 2021 that he was advising his pregnant patients to take COVID-19 vaccines. Now, he doesn't even have pregnant patients. He's a junior pancreatic surgeon podcaster from Johns Hopkins. So, Nick, we've got a problem at the FDA. We certainly have a past problem, and we've got a current problem with Makary and Prasad.
Yeah, that's it appears to very much be the case. And what's important for the audience to understand here is back in 2023, we've published two autopsy papers. One was called the Systematic Review of Autopsy Findings and Deaths After COVID-19 Vaccination. And in this paper, we have literally documented 240 vaccine deaths confirmed with expert adjudication committees. And, most of these people died within a week after the vaccine. And we literally have a 50-page adjudication table of all of the patients, their autopsy findings, their clinical vignettes. And the FDA's, they've never reached out to us. I mean, they've seen this study, they've reviewed this study, but they didn't act on it. And again, this was 2 years ago. And so what needs to be understood is this contrast with the COVID-19 vaccines and past vaccine withdrawals. So, I mean, this graph was taken in 2023. And as you can see, there was already 37,000 reported COVID-19 vaccine deaths to the vaccine adverse event reporting system.
Now, Nick, that includes the U.S. and some countries in Europe, and I think in Asia as well. So this is not a U.S. estimate, but a global estimate.
Yes, this is a global estimate. We have to also understand the underreporting factor of the COVID vaccines. 31 is a conservative estimate derived in a paper by Rose and colleagues. Mm-hmm. But the real underreporting factor is probably over 100, as indicated by the Lazarus Harvard report that found less than 1%.
Nick, acknowledging underreporting, if we just restrict it to what's been reported to the CDC, on each and every one of these records, the CDC has the doctor who reported it, their office, their phone number, their email, their cell phone. They have the patient's name and date of birth and address and email, cell phone, the relatives' contact information. So the CDC has all the information to do an investigation, whether they're investigating 37,000 deaths or just these 10 deaths. And, this has gone on for years now. I think it's very important that the CDC current officials, Macri and Prasad, knew all this well ahead of time. We've had multiple U.S. Senate hearings on this, Nick. These data are part of the proceedings of U.S. Senate hearings. The most recent one, May 21st of 2025, concluded there was a government cover-up on myocarditis and on deaths due to myocarditis dating back to 2021. This is in the U.S. Senate record. Disappointingly, Macri and Prasad did not show up to this hearing. Robert F. Kennedy did not show up to this hearing. I mean, and this is where, the world's greatest medical experts showed up and were asked to present their opinions and data on this, including the autopsy study that you presented. Now, Nick, additionally, a paper, first author Rose and colleagues, you and I are co-authors, revealed that in VAERS at the time we published this, of the myocarditis cases reported, the case fatality rate was 2.9%. Point to that number if you can, Nick, in the right-hand column at the top.
Yeah, and can't point on here.
Well, but the data are right here. This is in the PubMed listed peer-reviewed literature. And another paper, Nick, by Takahara, very importantly from Japan, now following these young people with myocarditis out to 90 days, the case fatality rate, Nick, 9.6%. So I think that graphic that you showed of the FDA looking at 10 deaths and saying, oh, looky here, we found a few deaths. Oh, wait a minute. The peer-reviewed literature is loaded with myocarditis deaths, loaded. Yeah. And a large fraction of them fall under the age of 18, if we're just going to talk about pediatric deaths, Nick. And so, and I would say, to be fair, I know among those out in social media, there are Twitter account holders out there that have prominent pediatric deaths: Ernesto Ramirez, Trista Martin, and Sean Hartman. They're all pediatric, autopsy-proven, clinically adjudicated cases I've personally reviewed. I've met with the family members. I know these cases well. They've all died due to the COVID-19 vaccine. So I would have questions for Macri and Prasad if they would actually hold a proper press conference and take questions. Are these 3 cases among the 10? What's the overlap of the fatal cases in the Rose paper and the Takahara paper, for instance? And we need to get to this tip of the iceberg question here, Nick, because, right now I sense that this leaked memo is essentially telling us that the current staff, Macri and Prasad, were participating in the cover-up. They're actually now co-conspirators in the cover-up. If they would have come out and said, listen, we're having a press release, we've done an internal analysis, here's our findings. But what Washington Post is reporting is that this is a leaked memo, that Prasad and Macri never wanted this to be public knowledge.
Yeah, it appears they didn't. This should have been accompanied by a press conference, by, what cases were they looking at? What database did they source it from? What were the findings in these cases? And none of that was done. And so now that gives the opportunity for places like CNN and MSNBC to just attack it and even claim that those 10 deaths aren't even real. And so it's just botched. It's a botched rollout.
It's definitely a botched disclosure of safety information, for sure. A huge botched disclosure. But think about the questions that CNN and ABC and others are having. Prasad makes a political comment that, Biden forced the kids to take the vaccine. I say, wait a minute. The vaccine, the FDA, indicated the vaccine for children. In fact, it's still on the CDC ACIP schedule, Nick. It's still on the schedule today that if they have a baseline medical condition, down to age 6 months should be taking COVID-19 vaccine. So Prasad's trying to blame the Biden administration. I go right back and blame the agency. The agency is responsible for drugs either being on the market or being pulled off the market or having black box warnings. They still don't have black box warnings on Pfizer and Moderna. Those are the messenger RNA products that are emergency use authorized. The boosters are for children. The original shots temporarily had full approval and licensure, but they're no longer used, Nick. And, I can tell you at this point in time, what ABC and CNN are saying is, well, where are the data? And that's actually a fair question. Where are the data? And I'd start with the 96 deaths. Wait a minute. They have 96 children who died. Well, under what context? Did they die after the vaccine? Let's see the records. Whether or not Prasad or someone else concluded only 10 of the 96 due to the vaccine, as a drug safety expert and a far, senior doctor to Prasad or Macri, I'd say, listen, I want to see all 96 deaths, and we'll independently review them and see indeed how these children die. We shouldn't have any children die in the context of receiving a vaccine, Nick. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, no children should die. That's absolutely unacceptable. And one more thing, and I want to go over this. This was our other autopsy paper that we published 2 years ago in European Society of Cardiology, Heart Failure, very reputable journal. So this has been here for 2 years. We document, again, 28 confirmed vaccine myocarditis deaths. There was no, again, so this shows that this syndrome is fatal. It can cause death. And so there's, again, still no black box warning. They're still being perpetuated to 6-month-olds in some states because they still allow them to be on the market. And they're still, unfortunately, resulting in the deaths of children who are receiving these shots. And we can't forget the other harms being incurred in these kids that in some cases will be irreversible. We have pediatric cancers. We're now uncovering genomic integration risks, transgenerational risks of genetic material incorporating into the mother, passing it to offspring.
Well,
again, we have to consider all of this.
But Nick, there's great concerns, again, as of the August 29th, 2025 VAERS report. Doctors who report to VAERS, the majority of the submissions are by doctors who have already determined the vaccine is the cause of the problem. So VAERS implies causality by proxy of reporting. I report to VAERS, and I only report cases where I know the vaccine caused the problem. And I know most doctors who report to VAERS do the same thing. Okay, so VAERS it does strongly imply causation. People have said, well, it's just a correlation. No, it's not. It's a very, very serious reporting system. Nick, they're reporting 19,279 disabled, and among them children. Your point's well taken. What are they disabled of? They disabled from neurologic problems, seizures, stroke, Guillain-Barré syndrome, transverse myelitis, deep venous thrombosis. What are they disabled from? Progressive cancers. The list can go on and on. So our FDA, and Macri and Prasad included, are in deep water, Nick. And instead of them coming out and facing the public and facing the scientific community, what are they spending their taxpayer dollars on? Flying around the country and going on podcasts. So Macri, again, who's a junior surgeon, a podcaster, Johns Hopkins, doesn't have any medical qualifications. He flew down to Florida to be on the Patrick Bet David podcast. How do I know that? Because I saw him on the podcast in the studio. I've been on the show myself. So I can tell you, we don't need Macri smiling, going on podcasts. He needs to face the data that Jessica Rose, one of our co-authors, just produced and put on Twitter. There's a couple hundred cases of pediatric deaths within VAERS. And to credit Dr. Rose, she indicated that a large number of the pediatric deaths occur almost immediately after the shots, Nick. It's not subtle.
Yeah. So, so Jessica Rose, one person, Dr. Rose literally went and did a VAERS query in a day and did more than what the FDA has done in 5 years. And so
Mm-mm.
that just goes to show that, who's working in the FDA now? What exactly is Macri doing? He's just going on these podcasts. He should have did what Dr. Rose did here and investigated all these deaths, presented them to the public, and made the public actually understand what is going on. And we have to look at this tweet from Marty Macri from a few years ago. I mean, he was recommending pregnant women to take these mRNA injections.
Nick, this is a shameful tweet. He was in my group at Fox News. I went on Fox News. I never told America to take COVID-19 vaccines. Never. And here he is tweeting this out. He doesn't even have pregnant patients, Nick. He's a pancreatic cancer surgeon, or supposed to be. Instead, he's on podcast and doing tweets, and now he's the FDA commissioner with no drug development experience. He's in trouble. He's in trouble from the side who are pushing for transparency, like McCullough Foundation and those in the health freedom community. And he's in trouble from the conventional medicine community because he's not a credible FDA commissioner. We should never have somebody in there who's never done a large, clinical trial of a drug. He's never been involved in the drug approval process. He's never completed a drug safety investigation, never chaired a day safety monitoring board. I mean, he's in deep trouble. And I don't think he can podcast his way out of this, Nick. He's going down, and we don't want anybody out there to think him and Prasad are heroes at this point in time. Macri should have been looking at this paper by Gill and colleagues. So should Prasad. I presented it in the U.S. Senate multiple times. Listen, these are two teenagers, one in Michigan, one in Connecticut, after their second shot of Pfizer. They're dead. They have an autopsy. They conclude the vaccine is the cause of death. This is the most conclusive pediatric cases you can find. It's published in Archives of Pathology, one of the best medical journals in pathology. Is this part of the 10 cases? How come Macri and Prasad aren't commenting about this? I mean, this is right in front of them, Nick. They can't claim they don't know. So this, I have a sense that these two guys are trying to manipulate the media and get out of this as being heroes, or trying to minimize the damage of the COVID vaccines to the pediatric population. And the peer-reviewed literature won't let them do it.
No, it won't let them do it. And the people won't let them brush under the mass casualties under the rug. And that's, again, that really seems to be what this is just presenting a small number and claiming, look, we disclosed it. This is what we found. And just letting it continue on for years to come. And we have to remember next spike, the next generation Moderna mRNA injection, that was approved for adults over 65 a few months ago with a no placebo trial, 2.6% serious adverse event rate. It was a disaster, and it literally stands for M death spike in Latin. And so they're approving these shots still. It's a disaster.
Right. Yeah. So Macri and Prasad are in charge of approving COVID vaccines. They've approved more of them. They have not come out with a press release and to answer questions from the press on the 96 deaths, let alone the 10 deaths within them. How are they adjudicated? I'm worried that actually the entire 96, somebody reported them to the FDA for good reason. And chances are that if they've died in the context of a COVID-19 vaccine, they deserve intense scrutiny. So, I think we should outline the action steps for the FDA. Since they won't do it themselves, Robert F. Kennedy is silent on this. Robert F. Kennedy vowed radical transparency within HHS. FDA is within HHS. We're not seeing radical transparency here, Nick. So I think the first step is a transparent press conference, Macri, Prasad, Kennedy, in front of the American people. What do you think?
Yes. They should sit in front of the American people and tell them, give them these findings. And then what they really should have is a press conference with experts and scientists who have been studying this for the past 4 years and actually understand and can reliably present information on COVID vaccine deaths.
Right.
There's so many researchers out there. Most of them have been blacklisted from HHS because it appears they are still compromised.
Right. Well, listen, they need to face their colleagues, and as part of this press release, the FDA should notify all 96 families of these poor children who died. Every one of them. The parents should be notified that the FDA is looking at their child's death. I wonder if any of the parents are on this live stream right now, and I wonder if they've been notified by the FDA. If there's any parents listening who have lost their children after COVID-19 vaccination, please let us know, were you contacted by the FDA? Because if this was a drug, Nick, if this was a pediatric analgesic or pediatric anti-epileptic or other drug, if there was 10 deaths, let alone 96 deaths, this would be a big deal, Nick. Big deal. I bet the FDA, this was a leaked internal memo. I bet they haven't contacted the parents at all. Nick, what do you think some other next steps would be from the agency?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, get these off the market. It's undeniable. Put at the very least, if they can't even muster the courage to do that, at least slap a black box warning on there. They still haven't even done that. All of this, they haven't investigated the initial trials that led to the initial approvals yet. We already know there's a whole book on that by Dr. Naomi Wolf, outlining all the fraud that went on. So all of this can literally come tumbling down and removed from human use by just utilizing what's already in the public domain, what's already been investigated, all the studies that have been investigated. And they have to start holding press conferences with leading experts when they make such drastic decisions. Even a few weeks ago, when they changed the vaccines and autism wording on the CDC website, there's still been no press conference.
Good point. Good point. No radical transparency on that either, Nick. So, and Kennedy is nowhere to be found. And here you have the two biggest stories, right? The CDC now recognizing the link between childhood vaccines and autism, and certainly not discounting flawed dismissive papers. And now the FDA concession that 10 children, probably 96, have died from the COVID vaccine that they have, in their files right now. Kennedy's nowhere to be found. So I would second your call to it's too dangerous right now. All the COVID vaccines should be removed from the market, pediatric for adult, because if a child can die after a COVID-19 shot, for sure an adult could. And then if someone has a baseline condition, it could even be more lethal. I know that clinically, if they have a baseline cardiovascular disease or a prothrombotic state, the vaccine can be even worse. So the vaccine should be pulled off the market, and that should make things very simple for the upcoming ACIP, the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices meeting. What do we know about ACIP coming up, Nick?
Yeah, in the next few days, they're going to hold a meeting. I think they're going to be talking about the hepatitis B shot and possibly these 10 deaths that were revealed. But we're not too sure if they're going to discuss it. We hope they do, so we can see exactly the data behind it. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll be watching that meeting very closely, and we'll be reporting on that for sure. But again, the same message keeps coming to mind. We're talking about child deaths. People died from these shots. Why are they still on the market? Why are we just going through all these games? And why is the FDA commissioner going on all these podcasts when they should be taking direct action and protecting the American people from fatal products?
Yeah, well, that's their role. The FDA, first and foremost, should protect American lives from side effects of drugs, vaccines, devices. That's their role. The role is not out to be on podcasts. That's something we get to do because we're not government employees, and we get invited on a lot of podcasts, a lot of news. That's what independent medical commentary is about. But they are not independent. They are government employees. They are on the tax rolls right now. And I think they're letting down America greatly many have tweeted in and said, listen, it's not just the COVID vaccines that media pulled off the market. Remember, the FDA commissioner has the full power to do that. The other product that needs to come off the market is remdesivir, which the WHO said, don't use to treat COVID-19. It doesn't reduce mortality. WHO Solidarity Group agreed on this. This has been out since 2020. Now, fortunately, there's very few COVID hospitalizations, very little remdesivir use currently. There's also very little vaccine use currently, Nick. The CDC will not report to us how many Americans are currently taking boosters. A healthy person like you, Nick, you would be on your 7th booster. Someone like me with some medical problems, I'd be on my 10th booster, Nick. They're not reporting who has taken, the N+1 dose of the vaccine. The CDC is not being transparent with us. The FDA is not being transparent. We don't know how many vaccine doses are just trashed at the end of the season because people aren't taking them. But we did get a Rasmussen survey in recently on what Americans think about the COVID vaccine. Nick, what did that tell us?
Yeah, well, the Americans, about over 10% have suffered major side effects from the shots. I mean, we have to remember that's a large proportion of people when tens and hundreds of millions of doses are given out. I mean, so this is millions experiencing major side effects. And a previous Rasmussen survey a few months ago found that 57% of Americans believe that the COVID shots caused mass deaths. And so the public opinion, they know what has happened. So they're not doing what the public actually wants, which is.
Well, here's the tension. The public knows. The FDA staffers and the CDC staffers, they must know the public knows. And now they're in a situation where, what do we have, a leaked memo? I mean, it just couldn't be worse for them. The USA Facts, I think, is the best source of this vaccination data and who took them into demographic groups because they use the CDC tabular data. It's 81% of Americans, Nick, took at least one dose. 70% took 2 doses. And boy, do they regret this. 10% of those who took COVID vaccines believe they have a serious medical problem from the vaccines. And that's what I see in my practice all day long. This is astonishing, Nick. How much longer can this go on? We need to bring this to a close, but what do you forecast now? Do you think this is a crack in the dam, or do you think the agencies are going to continue the cover up and try to do podcasting and damage control?
Yeah, based on the trajectory we're on, it's been about a year. It's looking like they're going to continue the cover up, keep these on the market, and simply just do what's called limited disclosure of just selecting a very tiny sample of adverse events and kind of trying to appease the masses that way. This doesn't work because people are still dying. Children are still being given these. Elderly adults are still being given the brand new next generation ones with no proper human testing. And so the blood is on their hands. The blood is on their hands. They've kept these on the market. And unfortunately, as each week passes, more and more injuries, disabilities, and deaths will continue to accrue.
Well, that's a fair point. Even though very few people are taking the shots, there have been several hundred deaths that have occurred under the new Trump administration. That means Trump, Kennedy, Macri, Prasad. Those deaths they're accountable for. And I can tell you, if I was in any one of those positions, I would have pulled the COVID vaccines off the market day one, period. And I'd go right to America and say, I'm doing this, and here's the reason why. A doctor with medical authority who is in one of these positions has the full right to protect Americans from an unsafe biopharmaceutical product. Nick, I'd go further on the prediction for the ACIP committee. And I think the ACIP committee is also going to be involved in this limited disclosure cover-up. They're going to say, well, the focus of our meeting is the hepatitis B vaccine. And I predict they overlook the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine fatal case issue completely. They're going to say, well, it never came up on our agenda. And so here we go. And I predict we'll roll into the new year. This is what I predict. The COVID vaccines will still be on the market. They'll still be on the ACIP schedule for children down to age 6 months with one or more medical problems. And the agency will continue to be a part of this broad conspiratorial cover-up on biopharmaceutical safety, Nick. And it's only, I think, the efforts of the independent media, groups like the McCullough Foundation, the Children's Health Defense, Brownstone Institute, all the great independent reporters out there, Marianne Dempsey and Vigilant Fox and all the other independent newscasters and channels. It's only through our collective efforts will there be enough pressure applied on these agencies to finally do what MAHA wants to see happen. The coalition, the public, wants to see radical transparency. They don't want to see any more cover-ups, and they don't want to see people portrayed as heroes like Macri and Prasad when they're actually part of the problem, and Kennedy as well. We should demand better.
Yes, we should demand better, and we will continue to demand better. We're not going to bow down to anybody. I don't care who they are, who they were in the past. What matters is now, and now they're in a position to actually make a difference. We're not seeing the difference that we've hoped, and we're going to continue to raise the alarm. We're going to continue at the McCullough Foundation to pump out the peer-reviewed research exposing what has happened, what is going on, and how to fix it. We just published a new peer-reviewed paper yesterday in the European Society of Medicine's Medical Research Archives. Doctor, do you want to just give a brief overview of this?
Right. We were the first to publish on subclinical mild pericarditis. The vaccine injury that accumulates in the heart over months to years afterwards. So many of you are suffering with that, and it's a real entity. We've proposed methods for a clinical diagnosis and management. So make sure you check out McCullough Foundation, McCulloughFND.org, and follow us on all the social media feeds as we put this out. Everybody should sign up for Focal Points. Focal Points, you get it. You'll get a newsletter every day between 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Central, and you'll be updated. And make sure you share this live cast, and the video cast is produced from this. Share it widely. And you and I, Nick, we've been to Washington multiple times. We've been in the Senate chambers. We're happy to guide our junior colleagues at the FDA so they can start making some reasonable, rational, responsible, and prudent decisions for the American public. Nick, I'm going to have to sign off. Dr. Peter McCullough, president from the McCullough Foundation, Nicholas Holscher, McCullough Foundation administrator and epidemiologist, and everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this special live stream broadcast.
Thank you.